There's a certain kind of person who gives more than they should. You know the one. They say yes when they're exhausted, they agree when they're overwhelmed, and they smile even when something inside them is quietly breaking. On the outside, they look kind, dependable, always available. But inside, they're drowning in obligations they never wanted, carrying a guilt for responsibilities that were never theirs to begin with. They don't know how to say no. And it's not because they don't want to. It's because something in their past taught them that saying no is dangerous. People who can't say no are often people who learned very early on that love had conditions. Maybe they grew up in a home where approval had to be earned, where peace was a fragile thing that depended entirely on keeping everyone else calm. So they adapted. They became the helper, the fixer, the emotional cushion for everyone around them. They learned that the safest way to move through the world was simply to please it. And that lesson sticks. Now, even as adults, the instinct is wired in. When someone asks for help, their mind doesn't ask, do I have the time or the energy for this? It asks a much more urgent question. What happens if I say no? Saying yes becomes a survival habit. It works for a while. It keeps people close. It avoids conflict. It prevents disappointment. But over time, that survival habit builds a cage around them, a cage made of their own kindness. They start to ignore their own needs because they fear the consequences of honoring them. They worry that setting a simple boundary will make them unlovable. They worry that saying no will make someone angry, that choosing themselves just once will break that fragile peace they've been maintaining their entire lives. So they keep giving. They keep showing up even when they're running on empty. They keep sacrificing little pieces of themselves because the alternative feels far too risky. But here's the truth they've never been told. The real danger isn't in saying no. The real danger is disappearing completely under the weight of a constant yes. Because when you never set any limits, resentment begins to grow. Quietly at first, then louder. When you never protect your own energy, exhaustion becomes your new normal. And when you spend your life bending to the will of everyone else, you eventually forget what it even feels like to stand upright in your own truth. You forget who you are. The thing is, people who can't say no don't lack strength. They have an incredible amount of it. What they lack is permission. Permission from themselves to put their own needs first without feeling guilty for it. That hesitation, right, before you agree to something you don't have the time or the energy for, it's more than just a pause. It's a deep, primal fear. We tell ourselves we're just avoiding conflict, being nice, but the truth runs deeper. It's a fear of abandonment. For anyone who grew up feeling that love was fragile, that connection could be withdrawn at any moment, every no feels like a gamble, a risk of severing the very thing you depend on. So you don't build boundaries to protect yourself, you build walls around the relationship at any cost, even if that cost is you. But there's a secret that people who can't say no were often never taught. Healthy people don't leave when you set a limit. They respect it. Healthy connections don't punish you for being human. The ones who get angry, the ones who push back, they are the ones who are benefiting from you having no boundaries at all. And that's the terrifying realization, isn't it? Saying no becomes a filter. It reveals who is truly there for you and who is only there for what you can do for them. The way out of this pattern isn't a grand, dramatic confrontation. It begins with small, quiet acts of honesty. A simple pause before you automatically say yes. A moment to check in with your own body, with your own feelings, to ask yourself a single question. Is this yes coming from a place of kindness or from a place of fear? You don't have to become harsh. You don't have to become cold. You only need to become truthful. Because every single time you say yes, when your heart, your gut, your entire being is screaming no, you are teaching yourself that your own needs do not matter. But the moment you finally say it, the moment you let a quiet, firm no leave your lips, something profound shifts. It's not an earthquake, but it's just as powerful. You reclaim a piece of your own soul. You send a new message to your nervous system. Your worth is not tied to your obedience. You show that younger version of yourself that love doesn't actually vanish when you choose your own well-being. And slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the guilt starts to fade. The fear softens. The world does not fall apart. And you begin to understand that saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you whole. The people who struggle with this most are often the ones with the biggest hearts, the ones who give deeply, love intensely, and carry the weight of others without a single complaint. But even the strongest heart has its limits, and you deserve relationships that don't demand your silence as the price of admission. You deserve connections that don't crumble the second you honor yourself. You deserve a life where no isn't a threat. It's simply a truth, spoken with courage. And someday, it won't feel so terrifying. Saying no will feel like taking a deep, clean breath. It will feel like freedom. Not because you've stopped caring about other people, but because you have finally started caring about yourself.